Hello and welcome back to another speed build with Frimlin, and this is another slightly unusual build in that this is a property that I made about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago or something like that. It was back when Vampires Pack came out, so whenever that was when I made this. And at that point I had made so many different Vampires game pack builds that I decided that perhaps it would be too much to continue doing more, so I thought I'd have a break from them. But at the time I'd also been, I find myself fiddling around sometimes when I'm in my build world, and this was one of the places that I fiddled around with. Basically I built the shell, the exterior, before thinking about recording it. I'd just been playing around to see what I could make with it. And so that's why it's a special speed build. It's what I'm calling an unfinished build. And there's a number of these. This is not the only one, and it's probably not going to be, I'm probably going to make other ones in the future as well. Because I just have a tendency to play around with building and not recording it on video. So I picked it up and I plonked it down in a much bigger lot than it was originally built on. And now it's right in the centre of a 30 by 30 lot. So like other speed builds, I'm just going to basically finish it off and do some playtesting and then upload it. But the only difference really is that you didn't see the very start, which was when I made the shell, the external look of the property. But in this case it's quite a simple build in terms of geometry. It's very angular, and there isn't much detail to it, as there wasn't in those kind of manor houses when they were built. So I guess what I'm saying is you haven't really missed much, and don't worry. And just basically thought that it would be stupid to leave the shell of a rather nice looking house without taking the time to finish it up. So here I am, taking the time to finish it up. And it also allowed me to tick another box on my list, and that is almost a month ago. In fact, it was a month ago tomorrow, which is probably when I'll end up releasing this speed build. But almost a month ago I did a poll on Twitter and I asked people what packs they would like me to use for a speed build. And the winning entry was Vampires Game Pack and Vintage Glamour Stuff Pack. And so because this build had already been built using Vampires Game Pack, I thought this would be a good one to add in the Vintage Glamour stuff and, take another build of my long build queue, which I've been trying to get rid of recently. So yeah, really sorry that it took so long between the poll and the actual result, and I'm gonna take some time before I do another poll. I will wait until I've got nothing left to build in my build queue, and then I'll do the poll, and then hopefully, all being well, I will get straight onto building it straight after the poll is finished. That would be much more sensible, right? It just makes more sense. Anyhow, yeah, so I just basically went through and added a really rough floor plan. And I've actually watched quite a few speed builds recently where people say they find it hard to do floor plans, sorry. And strangely enough, I don't have an issue with it. The only thing that I have to do basically is just think of which rooms I want on which floors, and it all just kind of flows. I know that sounds like I'm gloating or something, and I really don't mean it that way. It's just I don't have a problem with doing it. It's pretty simple. For example, this floor, the upstairs, I wanted a main bedroom with an ensuite, I wanted a secondary bedroom, and I wanted a couple of kids' bedrooms. And if possible, I'd like to have an upstairs bathroom as well. So I just made a few blocks, and these are probably a bit smaller than the room sizes that I would like. But yeah, just seem to flow. Anyway, we're downstairs now. And obviously you need an entranceway. It's good to have a central bathroom. A friend of mine once said that she only likes houses with full bathrooms downstairs, so ever since then I've tried generally to have a full bathroom downstairs in my builds. And that is this. And it's a good thing it's there because in the end I couldn't fit another bathroom upstairs, so we're going to have people coming down the stairs in their pyjamas to be able to use this bathroom. But luckily, in the main bedroom, the master bedroom, I have got an ensuite, so that should be good for the parents of the house. And as is usual for this type of build, I've tried to use some different colour options that I don't usually use, and I'm just trying to find a good example of that, and I can't find one yet, but I'll tell you when I find one. But yeah, so because it's a mixture of Vampires game pack and Vintage Glamour stuff pack, I've tried to make each room like a fusion of those two packs, and in some cases it's better than others, and I think this bedroom is probably a good example of that actually. It just seemed to flow quite well in between mixing Vampires game pack and Vintage Glamour stuff pack items. Now, unfortunately that lamp that I placed in the corner there can't stay there because Sims can't actually get past it, which is a shame. But that lamp there is fine. No, sorry, it's this table that Sims can't get past. It's because basically there's not enough space between the bed and a little table. And so later on I take out the little table and I stick in full length mirror on the wall, which doesn't have the same problems, so that's good. So in this room I haven't really used that Vintage Glamour bed very often because, well, I haven't really been using that pack very often. When it first came out I did make quite a few builds with it, but since then I haven't touched it at all, I don't think, so yeah, it hasn't been used. But yeah, here's the master bedroom, and trying to see if I can get some kind of synergy between the blues that came along with Vintage Glamour and the blues that came along with Vampires game pack, and actually it seems to be okay so far. And yeah, I'm quite pleased about that. And this nice cream furniture, like a creamy wood, and tried to get a little chair next to the windows there, but in the end I think I go for something else. I've forgotten what it is off the top of my head, but not a chair, if I remember correctly. We shall see. Maybe I don't remember correctly. How about I just describe what I see rather than predict ahead on what I think I'm going to do in the build. So yeah, there's quite a little bit of space here next to the door, and I think that's where I place the chair eventually, but I also stick in a little baby bassinet, which is of course very handy if you want to start a family. If you are offended by the idea of me placing a bassinet there, then you can remove it, no problem. And oh, what a shame I don't use move objects. I can't place that thing where I wanted to place it. Oh well. Probably a good idea. It probably would have closed off the room too much. And then yeah, that starburst shape rug is from Vintage Glamour, and it's probably one of the most iconic parts of the pack, along with that wall clock, and of course the makeup dresser thingy with the mirror, and also the globe bar, which I do place later in the build, you'll be pleased to know. Now, one thing I noticed while I was building this unfinished build is that I hadn't really made the shell big enough to put, very spacious rooms. So actually the rooms are a little close in some places, and some of them I find particularly annoyingly small, but I cope with it. Luckily I do quite a few starter houses, so I'm kind of used to the idea of building in confined spaces. I did try a couple of times to make the external shell larger, kind of between footage of this speed build, but it just didn't look right. There's something about it now that I like, and when you make it bigger it just goes away, you know. So I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it exactly as it is, kind of honouring the fact that it is an unfinished build, not a completely change this build. You know, I'm not going to just destroy my original intention and make something new. And yeah, I think it's fine. It's not as small as I'm perhaps making it out. It's just I would have liked some of the rooms to be a bit bigger, that's all. I think 5 by 5 is a bit small, but it's okay. And then 6 by 6 probably is more ideal. And anything longer than that on length or width is going to be good. So yeah, some of the rooms aren't 6 by 6, for example. They're smaller. So if you've been watching me for a few months now, you probably know that I quite like doing reasonable gardens outside. But for this build, I just decided, screw that, I'm going to do something quite different. So I decided that instead of having a reasonably large garden at the front, I'm going to put a lot of ponds. Now, the thing about these ponds is that I chose in the end to make them use the green watercolour that comes with the Get Together stuff pack. The Get Together expansion pack. And because of that, it will show in the gallery that I used that pack, but I only used it for the colour of the water. So if you don't have the pack, don't worry, you can place the house in your world and you'll just have the plain blue water that came with the base game. But to me it only looked good with the green water, and I just couldn't accept having it as a blue water instead. So that's the explanation there. And if the little path on the left side is irritating you like it was me, don't worry, I take it out and soon it will be gone, because it was just offending my sensibilities. And hey, why isn't there more kind of edgings for ponds? I mean, there's like tiled stuff, there's like dark stuff, all of it's high and above the ground. Why can't we have some edges to ponds that aren't high, that aren't particularly obvious, but still don't leave it white at the edges? That's what I would like. But before you get to that, please, please, please put a black door in the base game. A simple black door in the base game. Now, how many times do I have to ask for it? Anyway, moving on. Now this is a good example of me using something that I don't usually use, and the example here is the wallpaper. I haven't used that shade, I don't think. It's kind of like copper on black, and at first when I placed it I was like, whoa, that's so busy and it's just too much, but it does a good job of adding a kind of a more wealthy feeling to the entranceway, because it's got such a grand staircase. You know, it needs to have like a kind of luxurious feeling of money, basically, in the entranceway. And this reminds me a lot of my Ellesmere Manor build. I think it was called Ellesmere Manor, and in fact that was just nearby when I was building that. You might see it at one point later on. But yeah, that also had quite a big, elegant, grand entranceway, but quite different from this one. And yeah, so what else am I doing that's different? I don't think I have done a chimney like this before. I was going to do it on my last build, which was a starter home, but in the end I had to carve off half of the house to make it fit into the budget. So I didn't do it, but yeah, I basically built my own chimney, so it has stones that match the rest of the house. There I am removing that path on the left and sticking the bushes in between the trees. It just looks better. Now there is a bit of a problem with that gap between the bushes and the fence, and I couldn't really fill it in easily enough, so in the end I decided just to change the landscape paint and that seems to have done it. Just basically used a grass paint instead of the kind of the patchy, earthy grass that's in there at the moment. And it just does a lot to, stop the eye looking there and thinking that something's missing, which is something one should be aware of when you're, reviewing your own builds. Where does your eye go? Is it a good thing to go to? Is it something that perhaps looks a bit weird? If so, maybe remove it or cover it up. So it's like a water world now, this place. It's like some kind of water park. No, just joking. But I think I haven't done a place with as much in the way of pond coverage as this, so a little unusual. And just sticking a few more, I think they're thorns on the front there, but they came along with the Vampires game pack, and I'm using the blue variant because it goes quite well with the grey brick. What else can I mention here? Yeah, sticking some ivy at the side. Did it a couple of different ways. There's 3 pieces of ivy that you can use. So I was often using the bigger piece as like a foundation for the walls ivy, and then there was like a middle piece that I think I sized up and stuck it to the sides, and then I used the smaller piece just to kind of fill it out and to stop making it look too ordered. Make sure that there's a bit of randomness in the textures of the leaves. Just makes it look a bit more realistic. So now we're looking at the kitchen, and yeah, I know it's kind of unusual using this kind of paneling on the walls of a kitchen, but I don't know, I just thought I'd try it out and see how it works, and well, I think it works. I've left it like this and it survived the playtesting. But one thing that doesn't survive the playtesting, or in fact this speed build video, is the left window there. I knock it out because I kind of remembered later on that I need to stick in the back door somewhere, and so that was actually going to be the best place for it. Because a back door out of the bathroom, I didn't like that, because you'd have Sims walking past people in the shower or the bath to go outside. That's not good. Now the lounge, which I haven't built yet, not a good place for the back door because it was just too cramped in there. So in the end, the kitchen had to be altered slightly, but only just a little bit, just enough to stick a door in, basically. So this little, let's call it a breakfast counter. I don't think it's going to survive the playtesting actually, because I like Sims, when they've made some food, to go and sit down at the table, and having the little bar there, Sims will sometimes go and sit there instead. And especially if you're running like a little family, I want all my Sims to be at the table together, because that's the way I was taught when I was being raised as a lad, so that's the way I like it. But I also like having a breakfast bar kind of thing as well, so I'll test it out and see what they do with it. If they use it only occasionally, then it might stay. But yeah, so dining room and Vampires game pack table and chairs. I don't think there was any vintage Glamour chairs that I could have used, which is a bit of a shame. However, I might have used vintage Glamour table with the Vampires chairs. I think there's a table, but maybe not anyway. I think I'm going to leave it as it is because I'm happy enough with it. But yeah, their wallpaper is from Vintage Glamour, and in fact there's only one wallpaper in Vintage Glamour, which I was surprised by. I seem to remember there being more, but when you check it out, there's actually only the one, and there's like so many different garish colours. I mean, there's like black and very bold gold, and like I can't even think of all the colours, but they're all very strong, and there's only a couple of kind of more neutral versions. And I mean, obviously if you're making a more kind of garish bling bling kind of build, you would use the more garish colours, but I'm not doing a build like that, and I don't typically do builds like that. So I've gone for a more neutral tone, and it also means it's easier to match up with the Vampires Game Pack items as well. But not everything here is from the Vampires Game Pack. For example, the kind of, what do you call it? The cupboard thing is from the base game. The curtains from the base game, but I don't think they stay. Maybe they do. Now that little tabley thing, I've gone past it now, but that's also from the base game, and I think it's the only one of its kind. Yeah, and but I'm using the black version of the Starburst rug and the wall clock again. And so I don't like using things, the same item multiple times, so I might go back and remove one of those wall clocks now that I've realised that. So yeah, trying to stick other stuff in this room. You know, I don't need to make the room, you know, busier than it is, but I want to, you know, I don't want to leave it too empty. But there's nothing wrong with, you know, having a bit of empty space in a room. And in fact, that corner of the room, I wasn't really sure about what I did with it, and how it is now doesn't stay. I change it. However, I might go back in and just remove those items just so there's a bit of space in the house, because otherwise it's quite cramped in some places. So yeah, you just had a quick look at some of the different colour options for that vintage Glamour wallpaper, and in the end I decided not to use it again, and I switch over to a Vampires Game Pack wallpaper instead. And this room, well, the larger of these two rooms is a bit dark at the end, and I'm not sure that it's going to stay like that. I might go through and alter the wallpaper and make it like brighter or at least lighter, but we shall see, because I quite like the moodiness of this room. And it's not too scary black, you know, it's not like an evil dark, it's more like a kind of like a moody kind of, how would you say, I can't think of any good words to describe it, but I like it and I'm thinking of keeping it, but I might change it. That's basically the basic part of what I'm trying to say there. God, it's so easy to get caught up in what you say when you do the commentary. You kind of edit as you go, and then you try and dig yourself out of holes you've made. What was I thinking? Sticking a pipe organ in the lounge. Just imagine you're watching television, catching up on your favourite program, and then your friend or your partner or something is using the pipe organ. But anyway, luckily it couldn't fit in there, so I didn't stick it there, and in fact I don't stick it anywhere in the build. Which is kind of a shame, you know, if you're using the Vampires Game Pack, why don't you use the pipe organ? Well, maybe you just want a quiet house. That would be, that would definitely be my choice. I prefer a quiet house. So yeah, what else can I say about this room? It's kind of black and brown, and just a little bit of purple and magenta. But yeah, trying to stick a statue from Vampires Game Pack. In the end I found a good place for it. Now this room, the reason why I split this big room into two is because I have already in mind which Sims I want to move in here, and that is Ruby from my Let's Play series, Ruby Angel, and her soon-to-be husband, Brun, who's an alien, and so she needed some kind of office, and this is kind of like her study or office, and it's the only place in the house that has a computer. Now this, unless I change the wallpaper in the lounge, I think there's too much of a contrast between the colours of this room and the lounge, so I might alter this or the lounge, we shall see. Actually, one thing that I should mention right now while I've remembered it is, if you've seen some of my other recent speed builds, I have tried to stick the screenshots for each bedroom right after that room has been finished. And I've not done that with this build, and the reason is because, well, it's a little fiddly to do, and I really wanted to try and get this a speed build done today and hopefully uploaded today. So my screenshots are all at the end, like they used to be. And I don't know if that's something that I'll just go back to doing, because it certainly is easier to do. I'm not 100% sure that having screenshots throughout the build is really that interesting. I mean, what do you think? I'm really curious, because personally, I possibly don't care either way. I mean, it can be good seeing screenshots throughout a build. I don't know if I've seen anyone else do that, in fact. So it's obviously the normal thing to have them at the end, or some kind of preview video at the end. But I don't know. I think it possibly doesn't matter either way. So I don't know. What do you think? Would you like to see the screenshots throughout the build, knowing that it's harder for me to do it? No, just joking. I don't want to make you feel guilty. You know, I don't mind putting in a bit of effort, but I probably won't do it with every build, because some of them are just, you end up with so many screenshots and it's just so fiddly. But you know, I kind of liked how it looked. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think the screenshots should be throughout the builds, like I was doing for a while, or at the end? Please let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I decided that perhaps having some kind of weird dry rosebush garden wasn't such a good idea, and I replaced it with a sand pit. And what I had in mind basically was the toddler stuff pack that's coming out in, I think, just a few days. So the idea is that you can stick some of your toddler stuff out there. Hopefully there's enough space for some of it at least. And yeah, I took out one of the gardening areas because I realized there was no kind of outdoor area to sit and eat. So that is what that little area is over there. But I'm leaving this garden in the corner, this gardening garden, because Ruby from my Let's Play needs some place to grow plants. She has learnt gardening like her dad was. Yeah, her dad was a gardener, and so she's learnt how to garden as well. And she also likes cooking with the food that she's grown in the garden. Don't we all? I mean, I do actually grow a couple of things. I grow mint and I grow red onions, but I haven't actually eaten either of them yet, which is a bit strange. But yeah, anyway, little known fact for you there. But yeah, if I wasn't living in a very tiny apartment, I would probably have a much bigger garden, because I love gardening. And I love gardening in the game as well. So yeah, this room, obviously, is a toddler's bedroom, and looking at it now, I think maybe it's a little clinical. I was trying to do like a very neutral kind of backdrop with green on top of it, but I think in the end it's more like a, I don't know, a hospital room. So I might go in there and change that wallpaper. I think that the wallpaper is the main offender in that feeling, if you know what I mean. So what's next? Well, as you can see, I've got open kind of arched doorways going into this room from the other two rooms, and the idea is that this is like a playroom for the kids, and also toddlers can go in there as well, I guess, although I don't think I've stuck anything particularly toddler friendly in there. Doesn't mean that you can't, especially with the new pack coming out very soon. But yeah, so this is a very green room, and it's kind of ticking the boxes of things that kids will need, like a desk to do their homework on or write in their journal if you have the Parenthood game pack. Activity table, which is needed for one of the aspirations for kids, and so is the violin, and then the science table thingy that you need for, I think it's the mental skill aspiration. So yeah, perfect room for young children. Just reminds me that I have to go and stick in lot traits before I upload it, because I haven't set them yet. So yeah, I think I'll probably stick in some kid-focused lot traits, because yeah, it's a family house, and so you want the lot traits to kind of further accentuate that. Now this is another room that might get some further editing, and we shall see at the end of it what it looks like, but it's kind of a mixture of creams and whites and a bit of purple, and I'm not sure that I get it right in the end. I might go back and change it. We shall see. But yeah, I think this is pretty much one of the last rooms, if not the last room. So yeah, I'm pleased that it's finished, because that means there's really no excuse then for me not to go in and start recording more Let's Plays. So if you've been watching my Let's Plays, if you remember them, the last one I released was a couple of weeks ago, then you know that there's kind of a cliffhanger really going on. Ruby is waiting to get married, and also her father Timothy is about to age up to elder life stage, and I wanted to do all that stuff once they'd moved into a new home, so now I have finished that home. I should be able to continue with that, but I mean there's also problems with it. I mean, I had lots of stuff in my build queue that I was building. I was working on quite a large commercial lot. I had weeks and weeks ago, or even longer, I think it was months ago, that I'd promised to do a certain starter house using backyard stuff pack, and I have done that now. The only other thing at the moment that I can remember off the top of my head that's in my build queue is there was another request from one of my viewers for like a row of houses. I think that was from Linda Akins, and so yeah, I will be doing that. Okay, screenshot time. Here's the master bedroom, the secondary bedroom, the kids' bedroom, and the toddler bedroom. And here's the kids' toy room, the study, the lounge, the kitchen, the dining room, barbecue area, and a kids' sandpit. And there it is from the outside. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll come back for another video. Take care and goodbye.